Across the Flow FM network, a Flow News 24 update.
On the Flow News desk, we take a look at the key stories of the day and we head to Europe, where the federal government's negotiations over a free trade agreement with the European Union have reached an impasse after 2 days of talks. Trade Minister Don Farrell interrupted his European holiday and he has gone to Brussels for those talks. Negotiations will resume again in August, but Mr Farrell has indicated that the government is prepared to abandon the proposed trade deal if it is not finalised by the end of 2023. The European Union wants access to Australia's critical minerals, but Australian farmers' access to European agricultural markets remains the key issue, along with the use of geographical indicators for products such as champagne and feta cheese. Those names are not being able to be used by Australian farmers when they put their products into Europe. If that were to be the case, then we would not be able to, say, supply feta because it'd have to be under a different name. Therefore, the people locally would buy their own branded feta rather than an Australian brand. So our people are saying that's unfair. There are other issues like the regulatory system on European chemicals and the use of them in agriculture. They've got much higher and stringent chemical residues for their grain, and so this is going to become a major issue. And we're talking here on the Flow Morning Show to the opposition Minister for Agriculture. We'll be finding out a bit more about that from David Littleproud and his view. He has already said that it's a bad deal for Australia and we shouldn't participate in it if agriculture is put in its current context for that trade deal. Looks like Federal Labor are having the same problems with the Europeans to get an outcome. We have a look at the cost of living now, and the Treasurer Jim Chalmers says that the federal government's bigger than expected budget surplus for 2022-23 is in addition to the cost of living relief than that they were expecting. So the more money that's come into the coffers as a result of people's wage increases and the increased amount of tax that they're then paying has meant that there's a surplus of money in the current account. And so Jim Chalmers has hinted that that there may be further respite at a talk at the Brotherhood of St Lawrence in Melbourne on Tuesday night. And they talk about the budget and the expenditure that they were talking of $14.6 billion on measures on the forward estimates. But meanwhile, independent economist Chris Richardson says the recent fall in commodity prices means that a second successive surplus is now much less certain than that it was on budget night. We have a look now at the important discussion on The Voice, and again, we'll get to that view on our Flow News desk from David Littleproud as one of the key components. The Nationals, very early in the piece, said that they were opposed to it. Well, Australia's two major political parties, Labor and Liberal, have begun distributing brochures to households outlining their stance on the proposed Indigenous voice to Parliament. The Coalition's brochure describes The Voice as risky, unknown and permanent. It also contends that The Voice will have unchecked power to slow government decision-making, and Labor's brochure in turn describes The Voice as our best chance to address the injustices of the past. The Australian Electoral Commission will distribute an official pamphlet to all households ahead of the referendum. So there are our headlines today at the Flow News 24 desk.
A Flow News 24 update.